Path of Exile 2 has been out in early access for over a month at this point, and I wanted to make a video and share my experience with the game as a new player to the Path of Exile universe. Hello everybody, Rusted Ground here, welcome back to another video. Path of Exile 2 is an action RPG developed by the New Zealand-based studio Grinding Gear Games. It is the successor to the extremely popular Path of Exile 1, a game that is widely considered to be the current best ARPG on the market. For me, ARPGs have never really been my genre of game. I always found myself to like the idea of playing an ARPG, but I always ended up abandoning the games after a while. In the past, I tried to play Torchlight, Diablo 3 and 4, and even Path of Exile 1. With the announcement of PoE 2 back in 2019, I said to myself, this might be a good ARPG to get into when it comes out. So, fast forward 5 years later, and I'm making this video. Okay, enough small talk, let's get into it. Path of Exile 2 Early Access offers about 50% of what the full game will offer. Or at least that's what I've gathered. You can play 6 out of the 12 classes that will be available at launch. The campaign has 3 of the 6 acts that the final product will offer, and apparently the endgame is about 60 to 70% of what the 1.0 release will have available. I can't comment on the endgame at the moment, as I have just reached that point, and this video is about my experience up to this point, but just so you know, for those of you that aren't familiar with Path of Exile, apparently the endgame is where the game actually opens up and becomes interesting. I would argue that the campaign is very interesting and offers a lot of content, but again, this is my perspective as a new player. In terms of how much game there is in the campaign portion, well, Grinding Gear Games said before the early access launch that the campaign will be 20 to 25 hours long. I currently have 70 hours in the game and I have just finished the campaign, so I guess for some people the campaign will be 20 hours long, for others like myself it will be longer. So how did I end up spending 70 hours in a campaign that is supposed to be 20 to 25? Well, I took my time, I listened to all the voice acting, I spent quite some time looking at my talent tree and trying to understand things in there. I died a few times on some boss encounters or some random mobs on the maps. I fully explored all the maps and so on. In short, I spent 70 hours enjoying the game and learning its mechanics and its multitude of systems. In terms of difficulty, this game can be quite difficult in some places, and the difficulty spikes are quite different whether you are a melee or a ranged class. I was lucky enough to choose one of the best classes in the game at the moment, the Monk, which is a melee class that is extremely fun to play. But in saying that, I did have quite a few challenges to overcome when it comes to certain bosses. For example, the final boss of Act 1 was very challenging for me, or the final boss of Act 2, that one was also a bit of a pain. Nevertheless, I powered through, and the dopamine hit that you get for killing a boss that has wiped the floor with you a few times is quite something. The game offers a lot of enemy variety, and I believe there are about 50 bosses currently in the game. Each boss has its own mechanics and things to look out for, so you will surely be on your toes at times. I particularly enjoyed the optional bosses that you encounter while exploring the maps, some of which are just very well done. The game is fully voice acted and the story is quite good. Each act takes you to a different region, which offers a few options in terms of scenery. There are dark woods to explore, barren deserts and lush jungles, as well as a bunch of hidden caves and temples that are full of surprises. When it comes to character progression, this is where PoE really stands out. You have a massive talent tree, which will take time to get used to and understand. There is a gear development system that can be annoying at times as it has an element of RNG in it, and there is a class specialization system which will most likely annoy you at first. Just to elaborate on that topic, each class in Path of Exile 2 Early Access has 2 specializations, or as they are called in-game, ascendancies. In order to activate or choose your class ascendancy, you have to go through a trial in-game, and these trials are, for new players like myself at least, very difficult. Now, don't let this scare you away from playing this game, as this is early access. Things will inevitably change, and I'm sure the community feedback will be taken into consideration in that regard. I said earlier something about the gear progression system having an element of RNG baked into it. For those of you that don't know what RNG is, it is an abbreviation for Random Number Generator, and in the Path of Exile 2 case, what that means is that when you upgrade a piece of gear, you don't have control over what stat you will get. So you will spend the resources to upgrade an item, and you might get the stat that you want, or you may not. This is a system that is very common in other action RPGs, and it's not that big of a deal during the campaign because you will most likely not need to upgrade your gear, as you will get loads of drops as you play the game. But if you do decide to upgrade some pieces of gear, just know that there is an RNG element in the game. When the game launches, it will be free to play, but if you want to get into the early access at this point, you will have to buy one of the supporter packs, the cheapest one being €30 or $30 depending on where you live in the world. The reason for the price tag is the fact that the main target audience for early access are fans of the game, gamers that have played Path of Exile 1 and that want to support the developers. But if you want to get into early access, know that the €30 you pay for the game, you will get €30 worth of in-game currency to spend in the game shop. Now, this game doesn't have any pay-to-win microtransactions, but what it does offer is a bunch of cosmetic items to make your character unique. In reality, however, you will probably end up spending the €30 or maybe less on stash tabs, since the inventory system in this game is quite limited, and to be fair, for less than €30 you will get enough storage to last you for quite a long time. With all this said, I really enjoyed my time with the campaign in Path of Exile 2 Early Access. I'm looking forward to going through the current endgame and see how that is like, and I will certainly play this game more because I also want to try the other classes and see how they feel. Overall, if you're looking for an ARPG to get into, and if you want a bit of a challenge, I think Path of Exile 2 is a good game to try out. Just know that in its current state, it will get a lot of updates and things will change constantly over the next 6 to 12 months before its full release. But that's it for me for now. Thank you very much for sticking around until the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give this a thumbs up and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.